The restaurant didn't look special from the outside, just a corner place on a busy street. Fogged up windows, a flickering open sign that buzzed a little when the wind hit it. People passed by without really seeing it. But inside, on that evening, a lot of things were about to be seen. It was almost 7 p.m., the hour when tired people turned into impatient customers, when forks hit plates louder, when every table seemed to raise a hand at once. Mila moved between them like she always did. Fussed, quiet, careful. Her black work shoes were worn at the toes. Her white shirt, once bright, was now a soft gray from too many washes. A dark apron was tied tightly around her narrow waist. Her hair, deep brown and thick, was pulled into a low bun. Loose strands clung to her temples from the heat of the kitchen. She had clocked in at 9 in the morning. She had not sat down since. Not once. Whenever her knees wobbled, she told them. Later, whenever her back screamed, she whispered, "Not yet." Rent did not care how she felt. Groceries did not care if her feet burned. So she kept walking. At a small booth near the back window sat Leo, 9 years old, skin a warm olive tone like his mother's. Big brown eyes that always looked a little older than his face. He wore a faded navy hoodie with a frayed cuff, jeans that were just a little too short, and sneakers with the rubber peeling at the sides. On the table in front of him lay a half-finished math worksheet, a dull pencil, and a small plastic dinosaur missing one leg. He was supposed to be doing homework. He wasn't. His eyes followed his mother instead. He counted under his breath how many times she refilled coffee, how many times she apologized for something that wasn't her fault, how often the manager called her name instead of anyone else's. It was always Mila, never Carlos, "Can you wipe that table?" Never Rosa, "Mop that spill." Just Mila. Near the front window, at table 6, sat a man alone. He looked like he didn't quite belong here, and yet, somehow, fit perfectly into the scene. His name was Adrian Cole, late 30s, tall, broad-shouldered, dark hair combed neatly back, a hint of gray at the temples. He wore a charcoal coat over a crisp shirt, and a stainless steel watch rested on his wrist. The kind of watch people notice in magazines, not restaurants. On paper, he was a millionaire investor. On screens, he was Adrian Cole, founder and chairman. But here, tonight, he was just a man at table 6, with a half-empty cup of coffee and eyes that watched more than they spoke. He came to this restaurant often, not because the food was the best in the city, because it felt real. Tables a little too close, glasses that did not match, a television in the corner playing with no sound, and always the same woman moving faster than anyone else. The woman in the faded white shirt, the boy in the corner booth. He had noticed him early on. He just never stepped closer than a nod. "Excuse me." A hand shot up from table 3. Mila turned immediately. "Yes, of course. What do you need?" "We asked for extra bread 15 minutes ago," the man snapped. His suit jacket was expensive. His tone wasn't. "I'm so sorry," she said, already moving toward the kitchen. Leo's pencil dug into the paper. He had heard the man's voice clearly. He also heard the manager's voice, sharp and flat, coming from near the register. "Mila, after you bring that bread, table 5 wants their table wiped again. They say it's sticky." "Okay," she answered. "And the floor by table 10 is wet. Grab the mop after that." She gave a tiny nod. "Yes. Your section is moving too slow," he added. "We can't lose tables tonight. Holidays are coming. Pick it up." Something in her expression flickered, just for a second. Then she dropped her eyes and hurried on. Leo felt his stomach twist. He had never liked the way the manager talked to her, like she was part of the furniture, like she could be moved around without feelings. The evening thickened. More people came in. Coats, scarves, gloves. Soft snow shook off onto the entry rug. The air filled with smells of butter and garlic, tomato sauce, coffee, and frying onions. Mila wove between tables. Would you like more water? Your order will be right out. Thank you for your patience. Her voice stayed gentle, even when her hands trembled. Her feet ached so much that the floor started to feel soft beneath her, like she was walking on something that might give way. Still, she didn't sit. There was no place to sit. Not for her. Adrian wrapped his hands around his warm cup. From where he sat, he could see the whole room reflected in the glass window. He saw the couple at table 9 leaning toward each other, whispering. He saw the family at table 4 trying to keep a toddler from spilling juice. He saw the group of co-workers at table 7 laughing too loudly. And he saw Mila, always Mila, carrying 4 plates at once, cleaning, resetting, apologizing. He glanced at Leo in the corner booth. The boy's legs bounced under the table. Every time Mila walked past, he looked up. Every time she kept going, he looked down again. Adrian knew that look. He had seen it in boardrooms, on employees who watched bosses make promises they never kept. That mix of hope and resignation. Children shouldn't know that combination. Not at 9. Mom, Leo called softly as she passed. She didn't stop. I'm almost done, sweetheart, she said. Her tray was loaded with glasses. We'll talk a bit, okay? You said that an hour ago, he whispered. She didn't hear him. At table 5, a woman dabbed at a tiny spot on the table with a napkin. It's greasy, she said loudly. Can someone clean this again? The manager turned his head. Mila. She was already on her way. Yes. Table 5. Again. And the floor by 10. Don't forget. Leo's hand curled around his pencil so tightly it snapped. Graphite stained his fingers. He barely noticed. Why was it always her? Carlos was free. Rosa was free. But somehow, whenever something messy, heavy, or unpleasant needed doing, one name left the manager's mouth. Mila, his mom. Adrian's jaw tightened. He had come here tonight to get away from meetings, to have one quiet meal alone. Instead, he found himself reading a different kind of report. Who was getting blamed? Who was getting praised? Who was invisible? He set his phone down. He watched as Mila crouched to wipe the floor, one knee pressed against the wet tile. A chair scraped harshly as a customer pushed it back. Watch it, the man muttered. She murmured, I'm sorry, even though she'd done nothing wrong. Adrian felt something unfamiliar. Not pity, anger, but not at her, at the system that made someone apologize for existing in the same space as a chair leg. Leo's decision came quietly. It wasn't a big moment. No dramatic music, no spotlight, just a boy's heart, reaching the point where it couldn't stay silent. He slid from a booth. His legs tingled. He wiped his hands on his jeans, leaving faint gray smudges. He looked at his mother one more time. She was at the sink now, rinsing glasses so fast her knuckles blurred. He took a breath, then another, and walked toward table 6. Each step felt loud, like the floor might announce. A child is coming. A child is about to do something adults should have done already. Adrian saw him approach. He straightened automatically, putting his phone aside. He didn't sigh. He didn't glance toward the staff as if to call someone. He simply waited. When Leo reached the table, his voice almost didn't come out. "Sir." His throat tightened. He tried again. "Sir, can my mom sit here for a minute?" The words were simple, but they hit like a stone, dropped into deep water. Adrian blinked slowly. He had expected a question about dessert, or the TV channel, or if he had spare change. Not this. Leo swallowed hard. "She hasn't sat down all day," he added, as if that explained everything. "And they always call her to clean everyone's table, even when it's not her table." He glanced down at his shoes. "I just want her to sit. Not for an hour. Not for the night. For a minute." Adrian felt his chest tighten. "How long has she been here?" he asked quietly. Leo thought. "Since morning, when it was still bright outside." "And you?" Adrian asked. "I came after school. She said it's safer to be where there are people than alone at home." He said it like he was explaining a math problem. "Fact, fact, fact." Adrian looked past him to where Mila was picking up dropped cutlery in the corner. He made his choice. "Go ask her to come here," he said gently. Leo's eyes widened. "She'll say no," he whispered. "She doesn't like getting in trouble." Adrian's gaze softened. "Tell her I invited her," he replied. "And if someone wants to be angry, they can speak to me instead." Leo searched his face. Adults often said things they didn't mean. This man didn't look like that. He looked grounded. "Okay," Leo said quietly. He turned and hurried back. "Mom," he said, tugging her apron. "Not now, baby," she answered, stacking plates. "There's a customer who..." "He wants you to sit," Leo blurted. She frowned. "What?" "The man in the gray coat. He said you should sit at his table. Just for a minute." Her stomach dropped. "Oh no," she murmured. "Leo, you can't ask customers to let me sit down." "Sweetheart, that's not..." "I didn't ask for money," Leo interrupted quickly. "Just a chair. For you." She closed her eyes. Of all the things that could have happened tonight, this was not on the list. "What did he say?" she asked carefully. "He said if anyone gets mad," Leo whispered, "he'll be the one in trouble, not you." Mila looked at him like she hadn't heard right. Then she looked at table 6. The man was watching them. Calm, unhurried. Her heart hammered. If the manager saw her sitting, there would be consequences. Fewer shifts, colder tone, maybe no job. This man didn't know that. He couldn't know that. "I can't," she said quickly. "It's not allowed." "You can," a voice said behind her. She turned. The manager stood near the register. Face tight. "The gentleman at table 6 spoke with me," he said stiffly. "He requested that you take a short break at his table." "Requested?" Mila repeated. "That's not." "Just go," he cut in. 2 minutes. Then back to work. The words sounded like a punishment, not a kindness. But Leo squeezed her hand. "Please, Mom," he whispered. Her legs felt like jelly. Slowly, awkwardly, she walked toward table 6. She wiped her palms on her apron, suddenly aware of every crease in her uniform, every loose strand of hair. "I'm sorry," she began immediately. "I didn't mean for my son to bother you. He can be direct." Adrian shook his head. "He didn't bother me," he said softly. "He did something very brave." He gestured to the chair opposite him. "Please, seat." Her body reacted before her brain finished arguing. She sank into the chair. The cushion felt strange, almost wrong. For a moment, she didn't know what to do with her hands. They hovered in the air before settling on the edge of the table. Leo hovered at her side. Adrian pulled a third chair over. "Sit too," he told the boy. Leo looked at his mother. She nodded. He climbed onto the chair, sitting a little straighter than usual. It felt like they had snuck into a world that didn't belong to them. Adrian watched them both. "You work very hard," he said to Mila. She gave a small smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Everyone here works hard." He shook his head. "Not like you." Her cheeks warmed. "I'm just doing my job," she murmured. "I can't afford not to." He glanced at the clock. "What time is your shift over?" 10, she said. "Sometimes later." He frowned. "And your break?" She hesitated. I drink a coffee when I can," standing near the kitchen. "So no real break," he said quietly. Her shoulders lifted, then fell. "That's restaurant work." "Is it?" he asked. "Or is it just the way it's been? Because no one with power said it shouldn't be." She looked at him, confused. "I don't understand." He considered her for a moment. "My name is Adrian," he said. Adrian Cole. The name meant nothing to her. To Leo, either. It meant a lot to the manager near the register, who had turned the exact color of paper. "I own part of this restaurant chain," Adrian added, as gently as if he were saying he lived next door. Mila's heart stumbled. "You what?" "I invest in businesses like this," he explained. "I read reports about profit and loss. I see numbers about labor and turnover." He nodded toward her aching feet. "What I don't usually see," he continued, "is this." Her brow furrowed. "This? A woman who hasn't sat down all day," he said. "A child doing homework in a booth because his mom has no one to leave him with. A manager who thinks hard worker means person who never rests." His tone didn't rise, but each word landed heavy. Mila's throat tightened. "I don't want trouble," she whispered. "You won't get it," he replied. "If anyone should be worried right now, it's not you." Leo looked between them. He didn't fully understand the business talk, but he understood one thing. For the first time, someone important was sitting with them, not above them. The manager approached cautiously. "Mr. Cole," he began, voice too sweet. "Is there anything else I can get for you?" Adrian turned slightly in his chair. "Yes," he said, "a few things." The manager swallowed. "Of course." "First," Adrian said, "I want you to schedule proper seated breaks for all staff who work more than 6 hours. Starting tonight. Not when there's time. On purpose." The manager opened his mouth. "Sir, you have to understand, during rush hours." "Understand perfectly," Adrian cut in. "People are not machines. If they collapse, the restaurant closes. You know what costs more than a 10-minute break? Replacing burned-out staff." Silence. Mila stared at the tablecloth. Leo stared at Adrian. "Second," Adrian continued, "task rotation. If the floor is dirty, everyone takes turns cleaning it. No more call Mila for every unpleasant job." The manager's jaw tightened. "That's not." "I've been here 6 times in the last month," Adrian said calmly. "Every time something messy happened, I heard your voice call her name. Only her name." He let that hang in the air. "This is not about effort," he added. "It's about fairness. You will fix it." The manager nodded stiffly. "Yes, sir." "And third," Adrian said, "the boy stays until his mother's shift is over. But he gets a proper meal. From a kitchen. Not leftovers. Put on my tab. Every time I'm here." Leo's eyes widened. "I'm fine," he said quickly. "I'm not hungry." His stomach chose that moment to rumble loudly. Adrian smiled slightly. Your stomach disagrees. Mila's eyes filled. I can't let you. You're not letting me, he answered. I'm deciding to. The manager nodded again, backing away. He had the look of someone who wanted to disappear into the walls. Adrian turned back to Mila. You shouldn't need a stranger with money to tell someone you deserve to sit, he said quietly. But while I'm here, I'm going to say it anyway. Her lips parted. For a moment, she forgot to be careful with her words. Thank you, she whispered. Not for the chair, for seeing us. He held her gaze. Once you see, you can't unsee, he said. That's the rule I try to live by. Later that night, when the rush finally slowed and the chairs were being flipped onto tables, Mila stood in the back hallway staring at a new sheet of paper. Break schedule, it read. Under it, names: Carlos, 6:15 to 6:30. Rosa, 6:30 to 6:45. Mila, 7:007:15. Real times, not promises. Leo swung his legs from the staff chair beside her, a plate of warm spaghetti in front of him. For me? He had asked the cook, eyes wide. For you, the man had said. Special order from the important guy. What important guy? Leo had replied. The one who listened, the cook answered. Mila traced her name on the schedule with one finger. Mom, Leo said. Yes. Was he mad at us? No, she said softly. He was mad for us. Leo thought about that. Is that better? She looked at him. Yes, she decided. It is. Adrian didn't come back the next day, or the day after that. Life went on. The restaurant was still loud. The manager was still strict. Bills still arrived. But things were different. Tiny things. Mila sat during her break and ate with a fork instead of swallowing bites in the hallway. Carlos mopped a spill without calling anywhere for help. Rosa wiped a sticky table and rolled her eyes good-naturedly, saying, Guess it's my turn. And Leo drew. He drew the restaurant the way it looked now. People, chairs, break room. He drew his mother not as a blur, but standing still for a moment, holding a cup of tea. He drew himself at a small staff table, writing in his notebook, a plate of fries beside him. In one corner of the drawing, by the window, he added a man in a gray coat. The man wasn't larger than anyone else. He was just there, sitting, watching, listening, the way he had that night. A week later, on a slow afternoon between lunch and dinner, the front door opened. Cold air swept in. Mila looked up from the counter. Adrian was there. Same coat, same steady expression. But this time, he wasn't alone. He held a small folder. Good afternoon, he said. The manager almost dropped the stack of menus he was holding. Mr. Cole, welcome back. We have your usual table ready. Not now, Adrian said calmly. He walked past him, straight toward the corner where Mila was rolling silverware in napkins. May I talk to you? He asked softly. She wiped her hands on a towel. Of course. Leo perked up from his booth, pencil hovering over the paper. We have an opening at one of my offices, Adrian said. Front desk, scheduling, customer communication. It's not glamorous, he added, but it's stable. Regular hours. Weekends mostly free. Health insurance. Her heart raced. I don't have office experience, she said quickly. You do, he replied. You just don't call it that. You manage several tables at once. Remember orders, handle complaints, translate confusion into solutions. That's customer service. You also coach new staff when they're overwhelmed. That's training. You keep this place running smoother than its systems. That's management. She shook her head, stunned. You don't know me, she whispered. I've watched, he answered. More than you think. He slid the folder toward her. Inside was a simple offer letter. Not huge money, but more than she made now, with fewer hours on her feet. You don't have to say yes, he said gently. I'm not rescuing you. You're not broken. This is just another table to sit at. If you want it. Her fingers trembled on the paper. If I say no, she asked, then I'll keep coming here, he said. I'll keep eating terrible coffee cake and watching you work too hard. And I'll know you chose this. That's enough. Tears finally slipped over her lashes. She wiped them quickly. Can I think about it? She asked. Of course, he said. Call me when you decide. The number is inside. He nodded to Leo. Good to see you, Leo. The boy straightened. You remember my name. I remember the people who changed things, Adrian said. And you did. Leo blinked. All I did was ask a question. Adrian smiled faintly. Most stories start that way. 2 weeks later, a woman walked into a bright office lobby. Her dark hair was still in a low bun, but her shirt was no longer faded. Her shoes were new. Her shoulders were still tired, but not from carrying plates. Mila, the receptionist asked. First day, Mila nodded. Yes. Her voice shook. Leo had walked her to the bus stop that morning. Will you still come home late? He had asked. Later than you, she'd said, but earlier than before. He had smiled. Then I'll draw a different picture. Now, she stepped into a place with large windows, quiet phones, and chairs. So many chairs. Adrian met her near the doorway. Welcome, he said simply. She laughed softly. You really offered me a job, she said. I thought maybe I had dreamed it after a long shift. No dream, he replied. Just one more consequence. Of a 9-year-old boy asking why his mother was never allowed to rest. Back in the restaurant, the staff break schedules stayed on the wall. Even with Mila gone, the rule remained. No one went back to the old way. Carlos now reminded the manager if breaks were forgotten. Rosa told new waiters, if your feet hurt, seat. We don't do heroes here anymore. Leo still visited sometimes. After school, he would come in with his notebook, order a small plate of fries, and smile when he saw a server sitting down for a few minutes, laughing with coworkers. He'd take out his pencil and add one more version of the restaurant to his collection. The tables were the same. The doors were the same. The sign outside still flickered. But inside, there was one big difference. People sat, not all the time, not instead of working, just sometimes. Enough. Some nights. In his high-rise apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows, Adrian would open a drawer in his desk. Inside lay a piece of paper from Leo, a drawing of the restaurant. In the center, 3 figures sat at the same table, all at the same height. No one standing over anyone. No one hunched below. He kept that picture there on purpose, not as decoration, as a rule, a reminder that wealth wasn't about how many restaurants he owned. It was about what changed for the people inside them. Because he had been there. Because one small voice had asked, Sir, can my mom sit here for a minute? And he had answered, yes, she can. And from now on, she doesn't have to ask. If this story touched something in you, share it with someone who has ever worked on their feet all day, or someone who has the power to make their work a little kinder. Sometimes the biggest difference starts with the smallest question.